Okay, all right, well, first of all, I'd just like to begin this speech by stating that the polar ice caps have melted, that that, that polar bears, the Adelaide penguins, the Arctic puffin, African elephants, and snow leopards are all extinct, just to name a few. The ocean level, the temperatures of the oceans are have risen to a point where they are nearly inhabitable for maritime life. Great Barrier Reef is practically destroyed. The and of course, like I mentioned previously, with the polar ice caps melting, the number, the water levels, those the ocean levels have reached have increased by nearly 4 feet. It only is, and of course, all that extra water, massive amounts of flooding, and and with and also there are more droughts, more fires, more hurricanes than ever before previously. The cost of all these damages is billions, potentially even trillions, and the loss of life is countless, and millions of refugees are displaced from their own homes. None of this has happened yet, at least not to the extent that I have mentioned. But every day we don't act brings us closer and closer to a reality just like the one I've described. And to put it in perspective, the temperature the temperature of the Earth since 19th century has risen by about 1.92 degrees Fahrenheit or zero point 0.9 degrees Celsius. Now that might not sound like a lot, but it is important to remember that that the climate on our planet is very complex and very fragile, and even the tiniest changes to it can have the biggest effects. The just to put it in perspective, just how much the climate how much the temperature of the Earth has changed since over time is that since 1998 the Earth's climate has accumulated over 3 billion here Hiroshima level atomic bombs since 1998. That's a and now all those things that I mentioned, they cause a lot of distress for me personally, and it causes me a lot of distress as well. That despite the fact that not only myself, but the majority of American people, in fact, only 13% of American citizens, when polled, actually believe that there is no that there that mankind has no impact on our environment. But despite all of this, in 2018, carbon emissions reached the highest in human history, and and this has partially been contributed by inactions by our politicians. For example, U.S. President Donald Trump has taken the United States out of the Paris Agreement, which is an international resolution to fight against climate change, as well as repealing Obama's climate change policy. Donald Trump, Donald Trump has also repeatedly quipped several times that, where's global warming when you need it? The temperature in Washington D.C. is lowest ever been, lowest ever recorded. Winter temperature, although to point it out is that it's important to remember that it is average temperature that we're talking about, not individual temperatures. Of course, and as as we'll talk about later, is that the effects of climate change results in some areas like Washington D.C., New England, and the United Kingdom, their temperatures will actually decrease as a result of climate change. But the average temperature of the Earth still rises. And of course, in other terms of ridiculous things politicians have said, my personal favorite has to be Illinois Congressman John. Let me see what I wrote it down. His name, John Shimkus of Illinois, 15th district said that climate change won't destroy the earth because Noah said that because God promised Noah that there wouldn't be another flood. Um, well, I don't know if well, I'm pretty sure it says that God never ruled out that there could be floods caused by man. That's that's why we need to remember our personal responsibility. And of course, another one of my favorites, William Happer, like a person who one of the people Trump has appointed to on a climate change panel actually said in an interview that the demonetization of carbon is just like Hitler's demonetization of the Jews in the Holocaust. Well, I do appreciate William Happer though for standing up for the oppressed, for standing up for those who don't have a voice, like our molecules. That's very kind of him. And also I'd just like to also, is this a bad time to mention that none of these three people I've mentioned are climatologists either. And also let's remember that we should always listen to those who are most qualified to talk about anything. The people most qualified to talk about climate change, its legitimacy and its threats are climatologists. And according to peer reviewed studies, over 97% of climatologists believe believe in mankind's impact on the environment and on climate change. And the studies have also found that the higher the expertise of these climatologists, the more likely they were to state the more likely they were to state that man's involvement in the environment's effect was more and more important. And I would just like to, and this is the introduction to my essay. It's like it's important that we step away from the political and controversial discussion about climate change and really focus on what actually causes climate change. What if it really is man's impact on the environment? That's what we need to be worried about, as I believe it is. Then what is it about? What is it about carbon emissions specifically that proves so catastrophic? And what can we do? What should we do about it? And why should we even care? And also,